Global tourism. Tourism is a major business and it produces a lot of movement across the globe. And it's an industry of par excellence if you do it very professionally. But it has got its own challenges during the COVID. And let's look at the global tourism industry and how each and every country has performed. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, Global Economic Impact and Trends 2021, as a result of the COVID-19 and the ongoing restrictions to international mobility, the travel and tourism sector suffered a loss of almost 4.5 trillion. How much? 4.5 trillion, with global contribution to GDP declining by nearly 50% compared to 2019 to reach only 4.7 trillion in 2020. Now, if you look at the big picture, the loss is around 4.5 trillion last year. Now, domestic visitor spending decreased by almost 45%. International visitors fell by nearly 70%. The proactive action of some of the governments around the world has effectively enabled the sector to save millions of jobs. Yet, the sector's contribution to GDP plunging by almost 50% in 2020. The support from the public leaders remains more crucial than ever. So, the important thing is sum of all GDP is not equal to 4.67 trillion in 2020 as only major regions we have covered now, if you look at what I said now. But the big picture is highlight the global tourism industry. In 2020, 62 million jobs were lost. That's leaving just 272 million employed across the sector. This is 18.5% decrease was felt across the entire travel and tourism ecosystems, with SME, which make up 80% of the global business, being particularly affected. More decrease has disproportionately impacted SME, women, youth, and the minorities. Now, let me put this in context. 2019, 334 million jobs. 2020, 272 million. That's almost 62 million down. 8.9% of all jobs we have lost. Now, it's not easy to take this kind of situation as such. It depends on, especially when you're on a big corporate, you cannot withstand the resilience. It's not there. The challenge is real. It affects the families, it affects the children, it affects the women, the minorities. If you look at the Americas, let's go step by step. America, let's look at the overall GDP, travel and tourism. It was 2.5 trillion in 2019. Last year is around 1.4 trillion. Nearly 42% has come down. Employment-wise, 45 million people. Now it has come to 33 million. That's huge. Let's take Africa for that matter. 169 billion year before last year, that is 2019. Last year is around 86 billion. 50% down, 49.2% down. Employment side, 25 million people to 18 million. This is what the changing dynamics is all about. Let's take Asia Pacific, most active part of it. Let's say, if you look at the GDP, it's around 3 trillion. 2020 is around 1.4 trillion. That's almost 54% down. Asia Pacific is down by 54%, from 3 trillion to 1.4 trillion. Let's look at the job. job side, 185 million jobs was there in the Asia Pacific side on the tourism and travel, I should say. And 2020, from 185 million people, it has come to 151 million. That's the kind of drop we are talking about. Go to Europe. It's around 2.2 trillion. Last year was 1.65 billion. 51% has come down. Let's take the jobs, impact on jobs in the tourism and travel side. If you look at 2019, nearly 39 million jobs were there. Now it is around 35 million. Middle East, our domain, now the GDP is around 270 billion. It has come down from 270 billion in 2019 to 2020, 132 billion. Now, if you look at the contribution to employment, 6.9 million people, and it is now 5.7 million people. So you have, when it comes to the GDP contribution, 51% in the Middle East. Jobs are also, we are losing 1.2 million. So this is a big picture. Now we have reasons to believe plenty of opportunities to redefine and make sure the progressive and productive sessions takes place in real order.